Hey guys, it's Tyreek Wynn on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, the place where you come to get black news first. We are sitting down with the one and only Dr. Bernice A. King. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. We've sat down. This is like our fifth, sixth interview.
Maybe eighth.
Yeah. So I love the new year. It's 2025. It's the King holiday. What makes this year so special?
Wow. I think what makes this year special, and this is going to sound a little weird for some people, is that we're starting this King holiday with the inauguration of a re-elected president, who many feel has not represented what it means to be a person who leads with love and compassion, juxtaposed to my father, who led with love and compassion. And so it gives us a wonderful opportunity to accelerate, amplify, intensify, embracing the things that Dr. King encouraged us to embrace. You know, nonviolence is not just some term or notion and thing that you use when it's time to involve yourself in a campaign, a protest, a peaceful protest, because most people have interpreted it to mean that you are part of some kind of peaceful protest, and that's it. They don't even have a clue that it's a whole way of thinking. You know, it's a whole way of speaking, it's a whole way of acting, it's a whole way of engaging. And that way of thinking starting with the fact that, look, we live in this interconnected world. You know, we are really brothers and sisters in humanity with all our diversity and even with all of our ideologies, and that we have to discover. We have to find a way to live together as brothers and sisters so we don't end up destroying ourselves, you know, and perishing, as he said, as fools. And so I'm excited about it because it gives us a greater opportunity to really elevate the teachings and the leadership and the thinking of Dr. King in this time. You know, what would love do is the question we need to ask going forward, because the energy that's being put out oftentimes has undertones of hate. And so we need to have an overtone of love. So what would love do in the midst of all this hate right now? Because if we get drawn into that, guess what's going to happen? As Daddy said, we still have a choice today we still have a choice, either nonviolent coexistence or violent co-annihilation. So if we try to respond in kind, you know, then guess what's going to happen? We're going to end up co-annihilating ourselves. We're going to participate collectively in doing that. So that's why this year is special to me, and that's why we have this theme, Mission Possible.
Yeah.
And I want people to focus on that, because so many people think it's not possible to cultivate or protect freedom, justice, and democracy, especially now with all of the attacks on freedoms and a woman's right to choose, attacks on freedom as it relates to voting, you know, attacks on freedom of speech, you know, and even now some attacks on freedom to be able to assemble and to express our grievances related to our government. You know, attacks on, you know, our democracy. Are we going to end up with an oligarchy? Are we going to end up with a dictatorship? You know, are we going to end up, you know, seeing voting rights continue to be, you know, stripped and things of that nature? Hey, challenges, and people may try to do these things, but it's possible for us to cultivate it and protect it, but we have to do it in the spirit of Nonviolence 365.
Got it. And how did y'all come up with that?
Hey, I was not at the meeting.
Are you?
Literally, I was not at the meeting. And the team presented this, and because everybody had been talking about the attacks on freedom, on democracy. And obviously, we always talk about Dr. King representing, you know, advancing freedom and and justice in particular. And so combining those two together was important. And then it's a mission that's possible. This is possible because so many people are losing hope. So how do you give them hope? You say, look, it's possible. And look. Think about what they did in some impossible situations, but they were able to break through. But they did it through nonviolence. And there's a spirit to it's not just an act. There's a mindset, there's a manner, there's an attitude, there's a way to do these things. So many people do things in the name of my dad. But at the end of the day, I'm like, that ain't the spirit of Martin Luther King. He wouldn't have done it like that,
Okay. And I want to ask you about this because you did bring up the inauguration, right? So you had told the Independent, quote, "I'm glad that if it was going to happen, it happened on the King holiday because Dr. King is still speaking to us." Can you tell us exactly what he's saying in this moment in time?
Well, I think the first thing is what I said earlier. We have got to find a way to learn how to live together. Every day as brothers and sisters, every day we have to wake up and be intentional about our actions. Is this action helping us to lean in and learn how to live together? I don't think we do that. Like, we're not intentional. When I wake up tomorrow, I want to make sure my actions, my words, and my decisions lead toward learning to live together as brothers and sisters. When I produce content, media, entertainment, music, movies, is this helping us to learn how to live together as brothers and sisters? I think that's the loudest message right there. We must have a radical revolution of values. You know why he said all these different things? Because he saw a world that was rapidly growing towards becoming more connected without people being connected. And that connection, the people getting lost, and computers and machines, profit motives and property rights were becoming more important. And the people were getting lost. So he brings us back to people being more person-centered and oriented than profit-oriented, And so, he talked about this radical revolution of values. We haven't done it. And he said if we don't, then the very things that, what's happening now with technology is going to be a part of our demise. So, for instance, when he wrote about, the world in his book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos Community, there's a chapter called The World House. He saw what technology and science had done to progress our world. We can make progress. We're very brilliant, in terms of our humanity. We're not as brilliant on our spiritual side and moral side. We are underdeveloped, and so he felt that we needed to cultivate more of our spiritual and moral selves. That part of us that's more thoughtful and considerate. The part that, thinks about how to operate from a love-centered place. He said, because if we keep moving forward with this technology and science and we don't catch up morally and spiritually, we're going to destroy ourselves in the misuse of our own instruments. And it eventually, I become numb. I become detached from you, as another human being. And it's even more important today as AI is becoming more prevalent. AI doesn't have a soul. It can't think and feel like that. It doesn't have a heart. It can't identify with the existentialism of being human. And so if we don't learn to live together, AI will step in and begin to create just a lot of challenges for us. We will diminish.
Yeah. And how are y'all using AI at the King Center to help further the development, if you guys are?
Well, I mean, we're not using it yet, but we are hoping to begin that process, because one of the things we need to do, even in terms of his teachings, using AI for people to connect the dots with his teaching, how one notion or concept relates to another notion or concept, how it was developed, how this thinking was developed, how did Dr. King arrive to this place. Let's look at where he was in 1945 when he was in college. Were the roots there? Is it important to make sure that certain things happen for people early in their life? Because if we're saying we need more leaders like Dr. King, we need more people, citizens like Dr. King, then where does that all start? How is that developed? How did he develop? What exposures did he have? I think AI helps to connect all of that for us.
Okay. I want to shift gears a little bit here. So, unfortunately, we lost President Carter recently. And so I know you posted a post on Instagram, and you said he had a deeply meaningful relationship with the King family. He honored your father with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and then also signed the legislation for the historical park. So can you share some memories that you have of President Carter and talk about how pivotal those things were that he did for your family?
I just wanted to say it was the King Historic Site and Preservation District that he signed into law in 1980, which led ultimately in 2017, interestingly enough, under President Trump, to the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historical Park. Their relationship, was special in the fact that Jimmy Carter never met my father, but he attributed his presidency to Daddy and the movement. He doesn't believe he could have even been elected had it not been for that movement, because the black vote made a very significant difference in him winning the presidency. And my grandfather was very influential in that, Daddy King, Martin Luther King Sr., because he was one of the leading black pastors. And at that time, in the early mid-'70s, the black church was still very central to the black community. And through that relationship, and then the further development of a relationship with my mother, because, with him being governor here in Georgia and her establishing the King Center here in Atlanta, and looking to build it not just as a local institution, but an international institution that would influence the world, she needed the support of the governor, but the president. And so their relationship further developed, as she supported his candidacy, of course. She felt like he was the best person to move the issues, of civil rights and human rights forward. She helped him work on appointing black judges by, working with a team of people who would, think about, who are some of the people that would be good to serve in these different federal judicial posts. She got appointed to the United Nations as a general delegate, to the General Assembly, should I say, a delegate to the General Assembly by President Carter. And so they were very close. I mean, he would call Daddy King for some advice sometimes. And my mother and him would talk from time to time. He actually held the first official fundraiser for the King Center's campaign and to build this institution. And raised $3.5 million. Nice. And it was at the White House. Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, not a lot of people know that. I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. Okay. And when you talk
and wait a minute, I got to mention one other thing. When it was very controversial for him to hang a portrait of my father at the Capitol. Very controversial. Some of the decisions he made, he lost a lot of, I'm sure, friendships, but he felt it was the right thing to do. Now, there were those who brought the idea and pushed him to do it, and he didn't have to do it. He could have held his ground like so many people do today. But he took the bold and courageous stand and hung that portrait right outside of his office. So it was the first time an African American had their face in the state capital of Georgia when he was governor.
Yeah, making pivotal moves, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. Okay. And so I want to talk a little bit about this, right? So can you tell me, beyond your father's dream, what's your vision for a more just and compassionate world?
Well, my vision is probably not achievable, but
we want to hear it, though.
no. I don't necessarily have a vision that's so way to the left or way to the right of my parents. I believe that my responsibility is to take what they gave us and try to introduce it to a new generation of people, because what they gave us is so critical and vital to creating a just, humane, equitable, and peaceful world. I don't think we can do it absent understanding, studying, and embracing and living out nonviolence. I don't, it's not just a word. It's a whole mindset, and that mindset then influences conversation. It influences language. It influences behavior and actions. It influences decision making. And so my vision is a world where there are literally individuals in different arenas of life, different professional arenas, that really live from this nonviolent place, whether they're in the media, whether they're in entertainment, whether they are, in the medical field. And look here, the people who are in our insurance industry, especially on the healthcare side, what is happening is evil, point blank. The fact that we have commercialized the health and wellness of people is a problem in this nation, because people are suffering. People are walking around here with no health insurance. If something happens, they don't have the means to even address it. I mean, that's a lot of stress. People are having to pay astronomical prices to pay a premium that in some instances is what people get paid for a job.
It's expensive.
I'm talking from a painful place right now because I just went through something. And it's something fundamentally wrong with that. That's why he said we have to have a revolution of values. We shouldn't drive insurance by profit, And so, we need more people in these different places, because what happens is people say, I'm just doing my job. Well, it's just our policy. No, there needs to be a radical revolution among employees of all these companies to say, this ain't right. It's something wrong with what we're doing, and I don't want to participate in it. And that needs to spread across this nation, because we can do well financially, economically. People can still have their wealth, but it's got to be balanced. We shouldn't have, people struggling, there are people in this country struggling to put food on the table. People can't even get their medicine. People living outdoors, people, not able to pay their rent, paying astronomical cost of rent. We live in a city here in Atlanta where we have allowed, our legislatures have allowed corporations to come in and buy up homes, which we know single-family residents help people create wealth for their families. So we cut into that. It's something wrong and something evil about that. And I'm going to call it what it is. It's evil. It does not care about people. It cares about profit and bottom line, and that's a problem for me. So nonviolence for me helps me to keep the right frame of mind, to understand I'm connected to everybody. And in my decision making, and when I look at other people's decision making, I have to challenge those things that violate the dignity of people. This stuff violates the dignity of humanity, and we need to do something about it. I'm done.
Yeah. You seem very passionate talking about that. Yeah. How do you think that we as a society can stand up against that?
It takes. Whew, at some point, you have to decide that what is right and what is just and what represents true love is more important than just your own self-interest. We have to make that choice. Because I don't see another way. And so I don't know, I can hear Fannie Lou Hamer, sick and tired of being sick and tired. We need enough of that happening for people to align. These people had to make sacrifices. They had to be willing to pay a cost for us to even benefit from the things we benefit from today. And we owe a new generation the same thing. We've gotten comfortable with our middle class jobs, and our expensive cars that we finance expensive automobiles. We've gotten comfortable with the fact and taken for granted that, going into a restaurant and being able to, patronize that restaurant in any community without having somebody tell you can't come in the door at all. So not even about a back door. You can't come in the restaurant at all. Definitely can't come in the front door. We take for granted that we can go sit in the theater and choose whatever, go online and choose the seat, sit up front. When you couldn't even go in the theater, you had to go up the back door, up in a balcony to watch, a movie. So it's, I'll just say that we got to make some decisions and some choices. And, one of the places we all have to be challenged is we're too self-consumed, and we're not enough other-centered. And Daddy talked about that too. Other preservation really should be leading self-preservation, because you can't really commit yourself to other preservation and in the process leave yourself out. But you can commit to self-preservation and leave others out.
Okay. And so what I do want to say this, I do have to wrap it up, but I do want to say this. This has definitely been a pleasure. It was a pleasure always sitting down with you. Now, I want to talk about this. Y'all have an amazing lineup of events coming up for the 2025 King Holiday. I'm very excited about it. And I want to know, what are you most excited about during this week? I can say personally, I'm most excited about the book reading, right? Because, we're doing that together or Tuesday. So can you tell me what you're most excited about? I know we have the awards. Of course, we have the big service on the 20th, and you're doing the call to commemoration for that. But what are you most excited about?
I'm excited that this year we are launching the countdown for 5 years to King 100, which is awesome. The commemoration of my mother, Mrs. Curtis Scott King's 100th birthday in 2027, and my father, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s 100th birthday in 2029. We've teamed up with some partners, and we'll be adding other partners to address some of the economic gaps in our nation. And I'm excited that we are beginning that process, that it's not just we're going to commemorate a day, but we're about to impact and transform, more than 100,000, perhaps up to 1 million or so, maybe even 2 million or 5 million or 50 million lives of individuals and children. It's going to change the game for so many people. Our partnership with Operation Hope with the Kids Savings Plan. You starting off with a savings plan in kindergarten. Can you imagine how that young person's life will change? And then you couple that with them getting financial literacy starting in the 3rd grade, the parents getting it early on. it's going to change the game in terms of the trajectory of those children's lives, the possibilities that they have in front of them. And it's going to change the game when people's debt is paid off. One of our initiatives with the Atlanta Dream. It's just a really exciting time to be starting all of this at the beginning of what some people are nervous about as a re-elected administration. But I think what we're going to be doing is going to help move the needle in spite of whatever people are fearing happening as a result of a new administration. And we're going to be developing some true Kingian leaders and thinkers through this time period as well. There'll be an announcement about that later on as well. So that's what I'm excited about. I love this time of the year because it's a time to refresh, it's a time to reassess, and it's a time to re-engage, because so often we get off track or we lose track of time. You lose track of things that are important. And because of what he represented, he becomes that continual reminder every year. And I think it's so important in our nation because, unfortunately, we become so profit-driven, that I'm concerned. And I think as long as we have the King holiday at the beginning of the year, it provides a little bit, not enough yet, because we got to get people to understand it's more than a day on, it's a life on. But it provides a little bit of balance and check, It's like checkmate, Wait a minute. You can't do that.
Yeah. Wow. I like that. A life on instead of a day on. That's interesting. I like that. Yeah, definitely well said. Like I said, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to join me. And guys, if you are interested in participating in some of the amazing King holiday events, you can head over to thekingcenter.org. They have all the amazing events on there. You guys can check them out. We got the Beloved Community Awards. Yeah, we have that. The commemorative service on January 20th. The kickoff reception happening tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and we have the Beloved Community Global Summit, where we're dealing with the issue of AI from the lens of Kingian nonviolence, looking at what we need to do and be concerned about, as AI is taking more of a place in our society.
Good stuff. And we got the book reading on Tuesday.
Yes,
with
definitely.
You and Ms. Kimberly Johnson. I'll be moderating that, so I'm
and
very
we
excited
have
about
we
that.
have some powerful community service projects as well on the King holiday. But they can find out all about what's happening at thekingcenter.org.
Perfect. Sounds good. So yeah, guys, make sure you guys head over there and make sure that you do your part in helping to develop this movement as well.
And I want to close by doing this.
Of course.
I'm taking your closing.
You taking my closing? Go ahead.
I want to invite people to become King 100 champions for change. Okay. This man was this couple was a change maker in our world. They helped to change the social and the political and economic conditions in our world. And so I want people to join us in helping to create a new King Center as an epicenter where people are invited to become actively engaged in creating the beloved community where all of us can share in this wealth of the world, where the dignity and the value of every person is respected, where justice becomes a reality for all. So I want to invite them to become a King 100 champion of change, and they can go to the king100.org to learn more.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for taking my closing. You're the only person I'm allowed to do that. But guys, appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much once again. Make sure y'all stay tuned in to the Black Information Network on your home for 24/7 news, your place to get Black news first. Catch you guys next time.